Hello, I am going to talk about counting in Japanese. Right, if you actually want to learn how to count in Japanese, I am going to tell you at the end of the video. However, that is not a manipulation tactic to get you to watch the whole video. So if you want to see that bit, just skip to the end. I'm going to talk about other things first. I went to Japan when I was 18. Now I'm nearly 40 in 2 days. And so that was back in 2002. And I went there to study Japanese. That was the main purpose. Counting in Japanese is really cool. And they have like loads of different ways of saying numbers depending on what you're counting. So if you know anything about Japanese, you might have just heard this anyway, that counting is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's counting to 10 in Japanese. But that's not the end of it. They have loads of other sort of like forms that it comes in, and you have to get the right one. You have to select the right option depending on what you are counting. So it's very interesting, and also I think it's quite hilarious. So when I'd been in Japan for a couple of weeks, like within that first couple of weeks, I was like in this totally different environment because I'd moved from England and I was fairly young and everything, and I was with a host family, and I didn't really understand much yet because I just sort of like I had a really basic level of language comprehension. So this used to happen where they would get the opportunity to take me out somewhere for the day, or like take me to see some kind of sights, because they were really fun people, and they were like showing me something about the culture or like, you know, the community that we lived in. And we went to so I would just end up sort of like being in the car and I don't know where we're going because I didn't understand what had been said. So I'm just kind of like sitting there thinking like, what's happening? It's kind of really weird, helpless feeling, but in a good way, because you've got to have some kind of level of trust to put yourself in a different family on the other side of the world. And one of those days, we turned up at a place, and I can't remember exactly, but the basic idea was that we were catching fish. And I can't remember because I went to one later where months later, where you sort of like catch the fish, and then there was also a cafe, so they actually grill that fish that you've caught and then you eat it for lunch. But I don't think it was that. I think we were just catching the fish and putting them back. I'm not sure, but it was a pond in this kind of enclosed area, and like with beautiful plants around and things like that, and it was dead exciting because I was just kind of like going along with it and just see like what are we actually going to do, and then it turned out we were going to catch these fish. And the host family had an 8-year-old daughter. She was really an amazing person who was very, very self-confident. So she started teaching me. I didn't actually know what she was teaching me, but she basically started coming out with all these funny words, and I was just giggling away. And what she was teaching me was how to count the fish. It's really funny. So if you hear Japanese, right, you notice, or you might not, so I'm going to tell you, that it's sort of like everything's made of these kind of like set sounds. So they don't sort of like group consonants together like we do in English. You could have like S, T, R together, str, and make that kind of a sound. They don't have that. They have more of a short like ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. Everything's got a vowel with it. So it gives this kind of like staccato sound to it, I think, which is like ki. You know, like when they're talking, that's not what it sounds like, but I'm trying to explain like how the language sort of like works a bit differently. They don't have, I should have looked up this, I was going to look up if this is the correct word, diphthong. They don't have like where your vowel changes as you're going through the word, like a or o, like we do in our language. They have like a set vowel sound and put it all together like dig, 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 dig. So it just sounded really hilarious. I like these kind of sounds, so they have quite a lot of funny sounding, and you might not find this funny, but to me it was absolutely hilarious, like with the way that you count fish. And I'm going to read this out just in case, because I don't want to get it wrong. It goes like this: ippiki, that's one. And this is not just for fish, okay? So basically, I should explain that it depends on the size of the thing that you're counting and whether it's alive and the shape of it and stuff like that. So with small, this would apply to like small animals, for example, and it applies to fish. So it's like ippiki, that's like 1. Nihiki, 3 hiki, 4 hiki, 6匹、7匹、8匹、9匹, 10匹. So it was just funny because I had this little girl and we were catching fish, and then she was like telling me this thing. She was like, Suzu-chan, 1匹. 1匹, 2匹, trying to get me to say it, and I didn't really know what I was saying because I didn't know about this whole concept about the different types of numbers. I hadn't learnt that yet, so it was just like really funny because I didn't really know what she was teaching me, and it sounded quite funny as well. Yeah, so that was one of the things that happened with sort of landing in a different a new experience. And there was another thing I wanted to talk about. This isn't related to numbers, but I'll get back to that at the end of the video, as I said, which is that when we were sitting, right, so in Japan they have these kind of tables in the house which is called kotatsu, and it's a table in the ground, and then it's dug out underneath, and it has a heater underneath, and it has a blanket from the table. So you, when you're going to get in and eat your tea, it's dead good. You like get in, you put your feet down underneath, and then you put the blanket, and then you're sitting at the table. So from the top it looks like normal, but underneath you got this warm, like warmth happening. warmth. So we were sitting there in the family home at this first couple of weeks, really near the beginning of my visit. This is why it was quite cool that this happened. Everyone just stopped eating this one evening and just started going like and everything went like really weird, and I didn't know what was happening. And then it was like that sort of thing. You might be able to guess what I'm leading up to here. And then the host father, Abe-san, he was like, Jishin. But I didn't know what that means. And then after it had passed, after we looked it up, and he looked it up in the dictionary for me, and it was an earthquake. So I experienced this thing, and I was being told what it was, but I didn't know what it meant. It was really kind of, is it surreal? Is that the right word? It's kind of cool. It makes me think of like, probably it's like a child, when a child has a new experience in their life that they've never had before, and they're just trying to make sense of it. It's kind of like that when you're in a different language, a different culture. So it's pretty fun, and it was quite a strong earthquake, but it wasn't like to a dangerous level, but it was definitely enough that we were sitting there kind of wondering whether to panic, and then I found out what it was, so that was really interesting. Right, so now you're going to get your little Japanese lesson. So with your numbers, right, you've got 1 to 10, okay, so it's like 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm confusing myself now because I'm looking at my fingers because I'm dyspraxic. Maybe I better not do that. Right, let me just try and focus. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's to 10. Now, if you're counting things, it's like 1 of it, 2 of it, 3 of it. Okay, so if you're just counting something generic, then it goes like this. 1つ, 2つ. I'm going to check just in case. 3つ, 4つ, 5つ, 6つ, 7つ, 8つ, 9つ, to. And the difference with that is like, did you notice like the 9 objects, it's called coconuts, but actual coconuts is coconut. So you just have to pause on the t sound a little bit more. Whereas with 9, it's coconuts. Oh, I forgot to give a disclaimer. I'm not a language teacher, okay? This is just for fun. So if I was really a teacher, I would have been a lot more serious than like writing this list with like scribbles on it. So this is just for fun. Sorry if I get anything wrong then. That's not really the aim. The aim of the video is more to talk about my experiences with like language and stuff. So now if you're going to count things that are like a sheet, okay? So you've got sheets of paper. It goes like this. 1枚, 2枚, 3枚, 4枚, 5枚, 6枚, 7枚, 8枚, 9枚, 10枚, right? Now you've got like long thin things like pencils. That's the example of like what kind of shape would be classed as this type of counting. 1本, 2本, 3本, 4本, 5本, 6本, 7本, 8本, 9本, 10本. Okay, now you've got like floors. These are just some of the main ones that I wrote down, so there's quite a lot more. But these are some of the ones that I thought I want to say, right? So you got 1階, you know, like stories in a building. 1階, 2階, 3階, 4階, 5階, 6階, 7階, 8階, 9階, 10階. And then I want to do people. So you got 1 person, 2 people. Can't say it in English. 1人, 2人, 3人, 4人, 5人, 6人, 7人, 8人, 9人, 10人. So that's an intro for you for Japanese counting. Nice to see you. Bye.